Good morning to you. I am Dan Kopp coming to you live from the greater Madison, Wisconsin area. I'm the CEO and founder of Leading Like a Buffalo, and joining me today, as always, is Ty Firsching. Good morning, Ty.
Good morning, Dan. I'm coming to you live from Entebbe town of the greater Entebbe area of Uganda. So I hope you're getting me clear and loud and a great picture of me. Yeah.
Well, we always have a great picture of you. It's ingrained in our mind, so we appreciate that, Ty. As always, sometimes I want to remind viewers that Ty sometimes drops off because of technology, connectivity issues, weather issues, whatever. I will do my best to hold the fort down while he is gone. And today's topic, we'll get to in a moment. I also want to remind you that if you like our content, you can check us out on YouTube, the Enhanced Leadership Project. If you'd like to work with us, our email is at the bottom of the screen, ty@tradesecrets.com and dan@leadingbuffalo.com. And you can also DM us directly on LinkedIn. So for the last several years, Ty and I have been developing the Enhanced Leadership Project. And today's topic is how great leaders develop partnerships, the Nexus of APE and the Buffalo. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. So developing partnerships, that's not something that I envisioned doing several years ago. My entire life revolves around networking, and that is my favorite thing to do. I'm always looking for the next opportunity, never sure from where it's going to come, and I'm not sure what it's going to look like. So Ty and I have known each other for a number of years. Literally, we are the first people each of us met when we joined the Army and went on active duty way back in the day. We actually met on an airplane in O'Hare in Chicago on our way to basic training down in Alabama. And we've been friends since. So in the last several years, we've been meeting to talk about life, what we're doing. He's in Entebbe, Uganda. I'm in Wisconsin. And we just have been reconnecting. And then over the last 2 or 3 years, one of us would inevitably say, you know, what we just talked about could have been useful for other people, could have been a podcast, etc. So we started developing an idea about how we could work together, Ty through trade secrets and trade leadership, me with Leading Like a Buffalo, and how we could come together and do a project. So as Ty will explain in a moment, he's going to talk about the nexus of our two ideas. I wrote a book. It revolves around ideas or tenets that every leader can use to make it, provided they make them their own. They can't lead like I do, and I can't lead like you do. But if you use the book and think about these things as you're leading and employ them in a manner that's right for you, aligned with your morals and ethics and situation and context, you're going to be a better leader. So that was the book that led to the discussion about how Ty's point of view about things and my point of view are sort of related. So for me, developing partnerships starts with networking. It's not an end all be all for me, but it is the place I start. And eventually it led to me partnering with Ty on the Enhanced Leadership Project. So Ty, thoughts?
Well, it's been a long road, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So Dan was mentioning networking, which is so key, and he loves it. He's very good at it. And if you saw the beginning of it when I said, "Oh, you get to see me," and you see that jovial attitude between us, that's part of having a good partnership. Is when you're able to do that and take the seriousness with the kidding and not get offended by anything. Great leadership partnerships don't happen by accident. That's why Dan's out there and he's networking. But they also can't be forced. So when Dan and I reconnected so many years later after the military, there'd been about a 20-year gap between us talking. But with the event of the internet, we were reconnected, and then we stayed connected for a few years, and then we started talking a couple of years ago more frequently. And we both had similar paths. We were both in the military. We were both military police officers. I got out and went into education after my stint, my first stint. Dan stayed in the military for a few more years and then got out, and he also went into education. Neither of us knew we were going into education at that point. So that's something we didn't know when we parted ways. Dan went into leadership. I stayed in the classroom and did that. He went into administration. I stayed in the classroom and was the advocate for the students and the teachers. And so there was this leadership potential. So I was staying inside the organization. Dan was being the external part, coming from basically the top down, but that's not his leadership style. His leadership style is a little bit different, but he was more the overall. So when we talk about great partnerships, Dan's absolutely right. You have to start off with someone you know. You have to trust someone you know. There has to be accountability. There has to be vision and execution that are all the same, or they work together. I'll go into that a little bit more, but I wanted to hand it back to you, Dan, because if I missed anything in the way we started talking about this a couple of years ago, I think you hit it.
Yeah, I'm going to make what Ty said a little bit more succinct, because in my mind, I whittle it down to the easiest way to think of something. It's about fit. You have to fit with your partners. So all those things Ty said, you can be yourself with them. You can trust your partner. You think alike, but you're not identical, because that's a huge piece too. Because if Ty and I espoused identical beliefs or thoughts or processes, etc., it'd be a pretty lame partnership, because there would be no challenging of ideas and thoughts. So it's about fit. It's about finding the idea and the person or people that will help you make that idea come to life. And without fit, going back to that trust thing, leadership is about trust. And I trust Ty that we are going to make this happen, and we are making it happen. And I know he trusts me. We can be comfortable. We're comfortable with one another. We can be ourselves. And that's what leadership is all about. You've got to be yourself. So we're doing nothing different in our partnership than we do in leadership. So it's about fit. It's about being yourself. It's about trust, and it's about looking for opportunities nonstop. So not only networking, I mentioned, is my go-to, but it's about fostering those relationships. For those of you that have been paying attention to my LinkedIn process over the years, there was a couple of years stretch that on every Friday, I encourage people to spread the love. And that started for me back when I was a new associate principal way back in the day, where I blocked out Fridays on my calendar, and I still do that. Fridays is about connecting with people, establishing relationships, and strengthening relationships. And networking is not enough. It's about continuing to foster that relationship, because you never know where it's going to go. I just met a professional colleague last Friday morning at a networking event hosted by our local Chamber of Commerce, and he and I are going to have coffee next week just to see how I can maybe support him, how he can support me, and just to be collegial people in this community in which we live, and how we can move the community forward at the same time we're moving each other forward. So it's about networking. It's about building authentic relationships with people who fit you, because at the end of the day, you're not going to have the success you could have if there's not a fit. Quite honestly, it's the same words I'm hearing myself say when I'm talking with people about job hunting. You need to find a fit. Now, I know the market's tight right now, and it's been tight in the past, but you still, at the end of the day, need to find a fit, as opposed to just taking any job that says, hey, we want to hire you. Because with a fit comes your ability to excel and be the best version of yourself that you can be, the best employee, and you will rise to the occasion and you will meet your potential. So it comes down to fit for me. Networking and fit both lead to trust. And that's how Ty and I are together right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you say fit, for me, I think alignment, same thing. But one thing I want to clarify, alignment does not mean the sameness. We don't have the same. We complement each other. And that was how actually the Enhanced Leadership Project came to fruition, is because Dan had wrote a book. I like to call it Be the Buffalo, but Dan, what's the title? I just don't remember.
Oh, thanks. There's a nice plug. Woo, it's on the top. He's got books everywhere he goes in his house. There's a copy of it. The Power of Me Leadership. And it is 9 leadership tenets for every leader. The Power of Me Leadership, available now on Amazon.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. And my leadership philosophy is called active personal engagement. And the thing about these two leadership philosophies, which when we started talking, we said, man, they complement each other very well. But we were unaware until we delve into this more and more how much they complement each other. For instance, Dan's book, although there are internal components, he never explicitly addresses the internal components because all his tenets are actionable. They give you something to do. It's great because it's based on internal revelations that he really doesn't go in depth to in the book, but you can see, like, one is take care of your people. So he has this inside thing, I got to take care of my people. Okay, that comes from inside. That doesn't come, that's not the action is external, how you take care of your people, and what he describes in it is external. But the motivation behind it comes from something within Dan. My philosophy, active personal engagement, are three tenets that deal with personal state, engaged values, and active discernment, basically decision-making processes. And all those are done internal. And I didn't think of it that way because when I do things, it's external, my actions, but the foundational approach or the foundational reasoning that comes behind my action comes from those three things. So my philosophy is internal or intrinsic, if you will. Dan's is external and actionable outwardly. And so our fit is that we have the same goal, the sameness, the alignment, but we have different approaches to it. And when it comes together, which brings to my next thing, it's not the action of merging that makes a great partnership. It's the strengthening of what you have. And our two different programs come together, and it's much more powerful and full than they are individually. So I wanted to clarify, or actually I wanted to just expound on your fit, because it's a fit. We're not the same. Good Lord, the world couldn't handle two of us.
They might be able to handle two of me, but two of you, you're over here for a reason. If somebody said, get out.
So Dan, back to you. I'll let you go with that, because
so to clarify, Ty did have a good description of my book, except for one slight nuance in the wording he used. It's not how to do leadership. It's 9 things to keep in mind while you lead. For example, taking care of your people. He brought up specifically. Yeah. My caveat, which is the same as Ty's, when he's looking internally and growing, and I'm looking external actionable stuff. Whether you're looking internal or external, the things we espouse, you have to do in a manner that is right for you. The way I take care of my people, it might be drastically different than the way Ty takes care of his people. But at the end of the day, we both recognize the fact that good leaders do that. For whatever the reason, we know that's important. It's ingrained in my being and my psyche, and that's who I am at my core. Yeah. But I'm going to do it differently than Ty does, and Ty's going to do it differently than I do. It could be a simple phone call once a quarter to a colleague across the country or whatever, and that may be a way you take care of your people. It might be a thank you note to somebody with whom you work. You saw them doing something great. That's a great way to take care of their people. Ty, on the other hand, may have a different relationship, and they're all about, he's got a colleague who likes texting, and that's how they communicate frequently when they're not face-to-face. Hey, good job on X, Y, and Z when you did that the other day. It might be a text. So whatever it looks like in your world, that's the difference in the approach we take in regard to leadership and personal development. Ty's got an approach, active personal engagement. I've got what Ty calls the Buffalo tenets, 9 tenets that you should adopt to be a better leader, provided you grow in a manner, in Ty's program, grow in a manner that's right for you, and you employ the tenets, my program, in a manner that's right for you, aligned with your ethics, morals, your personal context within your organization. Because it's pretty easy to show up on day one of employment and be yourself. So the second you veer from that, whether it's in an interview, you tell them things you think they want to hear and they hire you based on those things, and then you show up on day one like, oh, who am I? How do I be the person that I led them to believe I was when I interviewed? You show up in your true, authentic self, and it's easy to do that. That's like telling the truth. The truth is a pretty easy thing to tell because you don't have to remember it. The second you lie or the second you try to be something else, it's hard to keep track of what you're doing and how to be that other person. So there's the essence of the Nexus. Not only is one internal and the other one's external, but they are also philosophically aligned in regard to internally grow in a manner that's right for you, externally employ leadership tenets in a manner that's right for you. And that's why we complement one another, and that's why this program came together.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that because Dan, I know that I broached on this a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago. When Dan and I first met, Dan was more of the inside person. And what I mean by that is I was very like, if I saw injustice or something wasn't right, I would say it and I would call it out. And regardless of the ramifications, Dan was able to hold it in and not hold it in, but process it longer and then say it at maybe a more appropriate time, just not in front of everyone. So I was the external, the extrovert, and Dan was more on the introverted side of that leadership. So he was actually the inside and I was the outside. I was the actionable when we first met. Fast forward a couple decades and all of a sudden you realize, or we realize that, well, wait a minute, Dan's more, his book, Be the Buffalo, right on there. It's a buffalo. The major standout tenet in his book is Be the Buffalo. And it's all about action. And not that there's not internal stuff, because there's a lot of it, because he demonstrated that when we first met. Me, I demonstrated like I was a wild card. I was out there. And even today, even though my book, my philosophy is more internally foundational based, my actions are still kind of quick. And I still say it, but I have this process inside of me that I've had, and I've known I've had all along. And there wasn't a name for it. But in this program, I've developed names and a methodology, something tangible, because it's hard to put something tangible that's on the inside and the way you think, the way you feel, the way you process everything. It's hard to be tangible. But your actionable situations, when you're acting it, I'm not that much different, except for the fact that, well, let me ask you, Dan, is that because we've evolved into what we were missing back then, or is it just better that we articulate it better now? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I think I articulate it better. And as you've pointed out over the years with the way I lead, leadership's gray, but for me, it frequently comes out as black and white and I'm not better than other leaders because of this, but I've got experiences behind me that have informed my actions now. And in a very quick, lightning fast decision-making process, I'm able to discern all these different experiences and ideas and leadership tactics and traits into actionable stuff. So I glossed over all the internal stuff in my book because it took me 9 years from writing a book idea to actually publish it, because I thought in the process, what makes me act the way I do? What things, and it turned out to be 9, what 9 tenets basically dictate how I approach leadership. And that's the essence of the book, because all the things that are internal goes into how I employ those 9 external tenets. So I guess when I approach it, I keep stressing you've got to lead in a manner that's right for you, because you're you and I'm me and we're different. We can't lead the same way. So that's why I've got generic tenets that I give examples of how I either learn them, encounter them, or why it's important to me. But I keep stressing, do them in a manner that's right for you. So I think my internal development evolved to a point where I was able to articulate the external actions, and I gloss over that 35 plus years worth of getting there. So our jobs in the Enhanced Leadership Project is to accelerate that growth, help people get in tune with how they personally develop internally through active personal engagement, and some immediately employable external actions they can take. And it's not a to-do list. It is just a way to approach the things you're already doing. So even if it's a discipline issue and you're holding someone that reports to you accountable, you can go into that with the mindset, I'm taking care of this person. So what does that look like in your world? I don't know. What it looks like for me is I keep focusing on the point. I call it bringing people full circle. So I introduce the topic that's negative, and people sort of devolve into negative emotions, crying, screaming, cussing, whatever. And my job is to get them full circle back to the topic at hand. So that sometimes takes 20 minutes. It could take hours. But that's my goal, is to help that person through the issue and not destroy them, help them focus on the issue at hand, or the words they said, the actions they did that were negative, whatever. So taking care of your people is how I approach that. And I keep it in mind. How can I take care of this person while I'm simultaneously holding that person accountable? So there's an example of what goes on internally for me, because I'm conscious of taking care of the person, and external actions of the words I speak to help them come full circle and not destroy them in the process. That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same way, because I found myself, even though I had a high degree of success when I was just that quick and making decisions that quick. Every once in a while I'd be like, okay, maybe if I thought about it just a little longer, maybe a tad longer, it would have been a different outcome, but it was still a high degree of success. And I came to realize that I was circumspect because I made the decision so quick, and people didn't think I took in to the other information that's behind the scenes that's going on in my mind, because I process quick, and because of the experiences that I've had up to where I had been and where everybody else is, I got to the answer quicker in my mind. I saw the connections, and you bring it up, Ty, you make these connections. I don't get how you do it so quickly. And I've learned to articulate it over the years. And that's what I'm trying to share with everybody, is that I don't make a rash decision. I'm just 6 steps ahead sometimes, and I'm not boasting. It's just the way I process. I see it, boom, boom, boom. And I've been called a game time employee. Like, we can goof around, or I'm not getting it right out, but as soon as it matters, bam, everything comes out, and it's like clockwork, bam, 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 bam. Especially in the tech industry, when I did some work in there, they were like, wow, where did all that come from? I'm like, I just put everything together and it comes out, and I can't explain it. But I can now, because I see the connections I'm making, and a lot of them come from my foundation that's internal, that I say, okay, this is the reason why I'm able to make this decision quickly. And sometimes I realize I'm going too fast, and I take it a little bit of time, and I go, okay, let me reevaluate just in case. But if a decision has to be made now, I'm like a coach. All right, do it, go, or don't, So anyway, I agree with what you say. I think we've learned to articulate our behind the scenes workings, and that's what we're sharing with people. And again, we complement each other from different views as we're doing it. Or different angles. So it works great. The whole idea of a successful partnership is to elevate the person that you're in a partnership with. If Dan and I were the same, we wouldn't grow. But there's been times I've been speaking and I've used some of his tenets from his book, from our discussions. And I know there's been times he's been speaking where he's used something from me that is like, oh, I never thought of it this way, but here we go. And so we elevate each other, and we'll continue to do that, I hope, until one of us dies. I'm not volunteering to go first.
Right on. Well, to be clear, I've made the statement in the past that you're much more cerebral than I. And I stand by that, because here's what I see. There's a situation in front of us. My gut tells me to do something. I do it. Ty's mind says, this is connected to that, connected to that, connected to that, connected to that, and he acts. Both are darn near instantaneous, but his is through a cognitive thought process, which he can then articulate. And mine is my gut telling me, do it this way. So we get to a result that works for us, but he's mentally connected the dots. I've subconsciously trusted my gut to do the same thing. And then his ability to articulate his actions and justify his actions on the back end is where I stand by my stance that he is much more cerebral than I, period. End of discussion.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But you have to realize when you're using your gut, I'm already processing what you said. I'm like, yeah, but he's using his personal state. He's using his values. Everything's going into that gut decision. But for you, it's my gut telling me this. You can care less what's telling your gut that your gut is telling you this, but you're doing it anyway. So it's the same, just a different process. I like the way you brought it out. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we all know the leadership is about the head, the heart, and the gut, right? Your head, you need to know some you need to know stuff, whether it's leadership tactics, whatever the nuances of the situation in front of you. Your heart, you need to take care of the people. You need to care about other people and take care of your people. And your gut, like discern all that information that's floating around your head, couple it with the stuff that's in your heart on what to do. And then your gut tells you an answer. And I just go right to the gut, knowing full well that my head and my heart are informing my gut. And
at least you hope they are.
It usually works. So we're good.
I'm just teasing. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah. And it's worked well for both of us. I know we're over time, but I really think that when you get into a leadership, depending on what type of leader you are, you have to look for someone that not only compliments you, but meaning that they have the same vision, they're in alignment with you, but they're not the same as you, and you elevate each other. Because if those things aren't there, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to just have a merger, and it's just going to be, well, what do we do now?
Right. Well, I want to take a moment to compliment Ty. You're looking rather suave and sophisticated today. There's my compliment, but I don't think that's what you meant. You meant compliment as in.
Yeah. Well,
all right. Well, I hope you learned a little bit today. Through our lens, it's about seeking out opportunities that you may not even know you're looking for, and creating relationships with people who compliment you and who you can trust, and they can trust you. And when you have those, it's like Ty said, it's about building each other up. It's not about coming together and an average of the two things. It's about complementing one another. So hope you learned something. If you'd like to check out our content, feel free to jump on our YouTube channel, The Enhanced Leadership Project, over on YouTube, obviously. You can also DM us directly on LinkedIn or contact us via our emails, ty@tradesecrets.com and dan@leadingbuffalo.com. We'd love to hear from you. So next week, we'll have another topic, so tune in. And then it's just two guys talking about leadership, and everybody can do it. Good luck.
Take care, everyone.